Hello everybody, welcome to part 2 of our Axis class live streaming demo. I hope you can hear me okay. Yep, okay, I can hear myself. I can't, Corey can talk with himself over the headphones, but I can't do it. I can't listen to my own voice.
Are you getting a delay on your voice?
Maybe?
Like that would really bother me.
Maybe it is a delay. Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
It's enough that I'm like I feel like I'm talking over myself. So
yeah, that's pretty frustrating. I'm not getting that over here.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
because I'm monitoring through OBS, and we'll show you guys how that's working.
This is exactly the subject of our stream today, so we're getting right into it.
Exactly.
last time we went over the kind of hardware setup in our little streaming studio, and tonight our goal is to share a bit about the software side of things, how we have it all connected digitally, where all the signals are going, why I don't mind listening to myself, but Jay does. All these answers and more.
Yeah, Corey's a bit out of focus actually. Now that I'm looking at the video, but that's my job. That's why I'm over here behind the camera at this moment. To worry about those sort of things. But anyways, so last week we gave you guys a quick overview of the hardware that we're using, and I think I'm gonna start with that again just in case anybody missed it. And it's just gonna be a quick rundown, and then we'll show you how all those things are connected in the software. So I've got my camera set up over here. This time I actually charged it so that it was ready to go, because it almost died on us last time. So this is just a camera with DroidCam, and I can essentially stream it wirelessly through the router to OBS, and allows me to walk around and show you guys stuff. So if I just transition to our hold on, you lost us there for a second as far as audio went. Hold up. Let me actually... I think last time I set it up where you could still see us. But I can turn on... the DroidCam here. And let's just do it this way, since... there we go. If I transition this, should be able to still hear us. And I'm going to actually turn off... so now you can see what I'm seeing here through this camera. There's the camera that I was looking at, and I'm here in a second going to turn off the ATEM sound and turn on the camera sound so that I can walk around and you can still hear me. Take my headphones off.
I guess I'll do the same.
Okay, so muting ATEM sound. Now you can hear me on the DroidCam. So quick tour, since we kind of went over things in more detail last time, but we've got the computer here set up with the ATEM switcher, which is kind of the heart of the whole thing. And on the switcher there are 4 HDMI outputs, and each of those outputs goes to a camera. There's 3 cameras and 1 computer. And here's OBS running. We've got, and then below that, I don't think we really talked about the Focusrite interface last time in the hardware. We may have mentioned it briefly.
I think we did a little bit.
But this is what's controlling all our audio at this point in time. We have the boom mic, which is
This
over
guy
there.
right here.
If I get my focus to work, there we go. Beautiful. Boom mic, and then my mic that is right here. So,
And the computer audio.
and the yes, computer audio from Corey over there, it's coming in the back end of the Focusrite.
Coming out of this other Focusrite interface up here, which just takes, the only thing it's doing is taking digital audio out of my computer and spitting it at maximum volume to the other Focusrite.
Right. Perfect. Okay, so then we have, from the ATEM over by the computer, we've got a few cameras. So there's the top-down camera, which shows a top-down of whatever Corey is demoing. And then we have this is our main camera, which is just the one you see, actually see here what that's showing. And it's a little bit over to the side so that we can do this split screen thing. So it's not where it's normally positioned. Normally I've got it back.
My framing's a little funny.
Yeah, so typically he's in the center, but for this particular application, I've kind of positioned him over to the side so that it frames properly. What else is connected? I've got this camera over here, which you saw, that was my camera in the beginning. And then I think, well, of course the monitors, and then Corey's TV. That's pretty self-explanatory. All I'm doing is Windows gives you the ability, I don't know if you can do it on Mac, I assume you probably could, where you can duplicate a display, or you can extend a display and then duplicate one of those displays to another monitor. So this is just a duplicate of this, so that I can see what Corey can see, and I can show him things like the chat and everything like that. So real quick around the back. Power, lots of cables. Very messy, but it works, so that's what counts. Here you can see the input from the computer. So it's a stereo input, so you get both left and right channels. And then this here is kind of a new addition that we've been trying to mess with to allow us to take the audio from the Focusrite into the ATEM that's right here behind the monitors that you can kind of see, and let us use the audio from the Focusrite that's mixed in everything into a Zoom call, and that's then controlled by, or I should say it's fed into the Focusrite and then into the ATEM, and then Zoom will see the ATEM as an audio source. And we'll show you that in Zoom a little bit too. That would be a good thing to go over that I forgot to mention that we'll cover that as well. Yeah, and then USB to the computer to let me control it and everything. And then the USB or the 2 display ports and an HDMI cable out to the 2 monitors and the TV. So, and of course the light and the other mic up here. We mentioned that one. Cool. Okay, so that's a quick rundown of the hardware. Time to go to the software. So let me set this down. Be a little weird here for a second. And then swap back over. I'll mute the DroidCam. Go back to the ATEM. Now you can hear us again.
Hello.
And then let me switch to... I'll just hide this camera and then transition so you can see us again. Hello. And then what I'm going to do is over here, I've got the display capture set up where we'll be able to see, you'll be able to see what my monitor, hold on. Corey is still blurry. So
I was just about to complain.
Yeah. I look at it and I see it.
Yeah. So.
Much better.
Crispy. You can really see the paw prints on my mask.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm not gonna wear my headphones because hearing myself, like I said, and I'll show you why it's weird, why it's such a weird thing to hear yourself delayed, and why it's delaying for me and not for Corey.
Yeah, the reason we have such a kind of a funny sound setup where we have 2 different audio interfaces that aren't even being the final product is just a stereo mix to the ATEM. If you know anything about sound, you kind of might see that that's kind of a funny arrangement, but there's a good reason for it. I think Jay's going to talk more about the video stuff for a second, then I'll dig into the audio side of things and we'll explain that, I think.
Okay, so when I transition here, we're going to pop up in the top corner, and it's going to be a little disorienting. But so I can turn off, okay, so just basic. I won't get too far into whoops, I want that, and I want to turn off this. There we go, okay. So that's a little less weird looking on the screen. So you can still see Corey and I. Maybe I'll move this up a little bit. Let me turn this, just so you can still see us, and, okay. So, where to start?
So I will say, as a person who's not familiar with this software, this is very intimidating looking.
It is.
And I like software.
So, basically, what I've got going on over here, let me make this so you can kind of, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but that's okay. So, essentially, from our ATEM, we are feeding in through the USB. The ATEM acts like a webcam. It's like a highly advanced webcam that allows you to switch between different sources. At its base level, it's essentially like you plug in a bunch of webcams and you can switch between the different webcams. And so when you get into OBS, you essentially just feed OBS that webcam source. Which, to do that, now of course this is all set up with our stream right now, but I can kind of show you how this stuff is laid out in this mode. So when you first open up OBS, it's gonna show you this, and right now you'll probably see nothing on your screen.
Yep.
Which is interesting. Oh, I know why. Because it's I can't really show you this mode. So essentially what I did is I hit the studio mode button, and now I have to set it back up again. Transition, turn that off. So when I hit that studio mode button, what it did was, in this view I have a preview and I have a program. So the program is what you guys are seeing right now, and the preview is what you can set it up to show, and then you hit transition, and then it swaps it. So what happened when I pressed the studio mode button is that it took this preview and made it the program. So that's why I can't unfortunately show you what that would look like, because it's gonna just cut out. And
would it be too clunky to like put it on to use your like phone camera and like show like?
Well, I guess I could actually. I could show you, but what it's gonna do, you'll be able to see here. If I do this, if I go into studio mode where it's all black now, and I turn on display capture, it's gonna do this thing, where it like is an infinite repeat of the of the screen, because I'm capturing the screen that OBS is in, so it's like captured, infinitely captured. But in studio mode, I can show you better that I can turn off. I'm hiding and unhiding these options. So I'm previewing this window over here, this window on the left. That's allowing me to not like indefinitely loop. It is looping. You can kind of see it over here in the corner behind us. But
so can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah, of course.
So like like the preview and the programs, those are like sort of like if I were trying to like put it into like layman's terms, like what those are, it's like a kind of like a setup of like how you've arranged all your different available sources.
Exactly.
Right. So like you've taken the input from the ATEM and resized it and put it in the corner.
Yep.
And then like that big blank screen is like where you would display. Just you'd be screen sharing behind that, right?
Right. Exactly.
And so like it basically allows you to transition between different arrangements of various inputs. Aha! I've learned something today. Yeah. This is great.
Exactly. So, like I've kind of been doing, I can sit over here and I can mess with this preview and like set things up. Say I wanted to like quickly like drag in a photo, I could just copy one from my desktop and place it, and there I've got a photo in, and like I can put it wherever I want. I can resize it, and then it just sits there. But you guys aren't actually seeing this on the stream. But if I transition here, if I hit this button, OBS is going to go away, and all you'll see is this little youth project thing. So yeah, there it is. That's all you see now.
Cool. Yeah.
So then to get to be able to see OBS again, if I delete this, with hitting the delete key, goes away. I want to turn back on the display capture. Obviously you can't see this right now, but that's what I'm doing. And then I can transition back and then hide the display capture so it's not like infinitely looping there. So there we are, back to where we were again.
Cool. So like if I were to make like an analogy, like this feels like I like making analogies to music because everything makes more sense to me that way.
Yeah.
So like like if like I think most people are familiar with the idea of like a mixing board, which I have one right here, and we're gonna talk about it for those of you who aren't familiar with it. But with like the concept, right, is you take your different audio signals and you mix them together, and you have all the different controls that you might want to mix them together in the ways that you might want to mix it. And so this is just that for visual.
Right.
So where like like in audio, you might want to like turn the volume up or down, or like pan it to the left or the right. Like here, you might want to resize stuff or put it, like blah blah blah. So it's like it seems very analogous in that respect.
Right. Exactly.
So so these are like different mixes. Anyways, I like this.
At the moment, you can't. Let me scoot us down a little bit. So we're kind of like, I'm gonna put us in the middle of this window. Turn this back on, so you can kind of see better what I'm looking at here. So now we're not really here. I just moved us there so that now we're not like blocking. You can see now up on the top that this says program. So preview and program. And I turn that on by going to studio mode. So most of the time you're going to use studio mode. Like you can use it, you can turn it off and use it that way. But everything you do happens live. So if I were to move us around, like if I stop doing studio mode, like you see, but I can move us around live and resize everything live. So if you want to do it more live, you can do it that way. But with studio mode, you can set things up and then transition to it. So go back into studio mode, turn that on, put us in the spot, transition. If I can say it right. Turn off that, and there we go. So we're back to this view. So you know, that's great that you can like, you know, you can edit stuff on the fly or whatever. But the real power of it is setting up your scenes. So our first little category over here is the scene selections. So if I go here, we're gonna lose audio because the audio is not in this scene. But I'll show you how we can add it back in. But if I switch to this droid scene, which is the scene that has the phone hooked up to it, it will show it over here. So I can actually live preview what this camera's seeing before I switch to it. So you can set up these scenes however you want, and then you're ready to go. Like, I could change this one so this scene has, you know, maybe I want that photo again, and I want to put that photo in here over the top of this, and then it's just there. But you can see when I change back, it's keeping those old settings. So you can, on the fly, switch your scenes. So that's how you would do it if you were using studio mode. Instead of like editing it every time, like you could just go in to this main ATEM one and add in the DroidCam and add in the graphic, and then, you know, go with it that way and just transition. But then, you know, you have to do that every single time. So with the scenes, you can set them up beforehand and they're ready to go for you. So while we're in this scene, oops, I accidentally deleted that scene.
There's no undo?
There isn't. And now we're like, I've done something interesting here. Oh, okay. That's right. We're good. There is no undo. That's one thing about OBS. There's no Control Z, unfortunately. But I'll show you how to add a new scene, I guess.
Great.
That's good.
I don't know,
So in every one of these panels had this little plus, at least these two, have this little plus icon right here. And plus adds a scene. So you can name it whatever you want. This I had, like, I can do phone, because this is my phone camera. I can add that in. And then you can see all the sources have disappeared. So here's our main ATEM one with the ATEM. The display capture, which is what's showing you OBS right now. The stream mic. So we've got this set up a little bit different. I'm actually not using these right now. Like the boom mic and the stream mic and the PC mic. We're done separately at first, but we've kind of changed how we've got it set up.
They're all routing through the ATEM now. So you can see in the audio mixer there, in like the third window over, you can see the green meter moving while I'm talking, and also while Jay's talking.
Yep. So it's all mixed down into one line input that comes out of the Focusrite and goes straight into the ATEM. Mm-hmm. That it gives us we've just made that change, and like I said, what that allows us to do is use the ATEM as a microphone in Zoom, because otherwise Zoom doesn't let us use all the connections that we have on the Focusrite.
There seems to be a limitation in Windows with Zoom that you can only if you have a multi-channel audio interface, like this one over there has 4 inputs. There's one for my mic, one for Jay's mic, and 2 for my computer stereo sound. But in Windows, Zoom can only see the first 2 inputs of any multi-channel interface. Mm-hmm. So that means that we can put our voices through Zoom just fine, but I can't play them audio directly from my computer, which is a no-go for me, because that's what I do. At least in here.
So speaking of that, while we're here, I'll show you something real quick, because I forgot to change a particular thing about the stream. So I can open this window up, and I'm going to dock it over here, and I forgot to change the stream titles, but I'm going to do it real quick while we're kind of here. YouTube, we'll get right back to. Just want to make sure that yes, I did not change it. So I can come in here and change all this. At least it should update all the titles on. Let's see if that worked. It's a test to see. I might have to actually go in and do it manually.
And now it's getting real meta.
Yeah, we're like watching ourselves.
The stream on the stream on the
So
stream.
you can see I brought up YouTube here.
Stream on stream on stream action.
But I can go in and edit. I know this is getting a little off track from the actual live stream part, but just in case, just so I.
Hey, this is part of it.
Yeah.
You are using software to do a live stream.
There is a lot of moving pieces.
Whoa. Someone just peeled out like crazy out there.
I'm sure they probably heard it over your mic.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, we are down here at the Mars Project office here at 7th and F in Eureka, and a lot of action down here.
Yeah. Okay, so I've changed the most important ones.
Fabulous.
Yeah, so okay. A little sidetracked. So we got sound coming in from the ATEM. We've got our scenes. We made our new phone scene.
Oh, you gotta add the input.
Right. Oh, okay. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
So I've added the scene. Now over here, the same way, I can hit this little plus icon, and I've got a whole list of different things that I can add. Everything from the game capture to the display capture that I'm using, to you can do Windows captures. The video capture device is what the ATEM is. You can capture a VLC video source. You can add extra text. You can do a lot of stuff. The main ones are display capture and audio input or audio output. That's how you could capture the computer audio and the video capture device.
Can I ask real quick about the game capture option?
Yeah,
because I think a lot of people, I know tons of people use OBS for game streaming.
Right.
So is that like grabbing the output from the GPU, like
so
kind of, or like if you're running a game, or how does that work?
As far as I understand, the benefit of that is that it looks for a running exe essentially. So it looks for because games have a certain type of classification as far as the software goes, and so it knows, you can set it that it automatically, if we make one here, it's you could tell it a specific capture window or any full screen application. So games are typically the only thing that really goes full screen. Even YouTube or anything like that doesn't really full screen. When games talk about going full screen, they're taking over your monitor essentially.
Yes.
That output is different. Like games can change the resolution of your monitor. They can do all sorts of weird things.
So I've noticed that if I'm gaming on my PC, where it'll like black out the screen, like kind of like like it does if you unplug and replug an HDMI cable, like it'll black out and pop back in. Like seems like usually at a lower resolution with the games that I'm playing.
Right. Right. It's a different source, but the OBS can see that, and it can pick up on that, and it can actually grab that when it opens and create that background for you.
Okay, cool.
Fortunately, we don't have any games on this computer to test out, but if we did, I would show you. So instead, we'll just add in the... Oops, I want to make sure I don't delete my... You can select these over here. You see they turn blue when you've selected them. But I want to add back in my DroidCam since I deleted it. Add. And so here you can select your resolution. You got video format. I'm going to use Wi-Fi. And if I look at my phone, DroidCam is a pretty useful, if you don't have a webcam at home, I would definitely recommend trying out DroidCam. The way I use it is over Wi-Fi. You can also plug it in. But as you can see on the screen, I don't know how well you can see, it's probably small, but it's giving me a Wi-Fi, a routing number. This should actually, sometimes this detects it automatically if it's on, but I can input it manually, and it gives me just an IP address that I can type in. and then it's got its default DroidCam port. I'm going to enable the audio. I don't want it to deactivate when it's showing, and I'm going to let it do hardware acceleration, which just helps it encode a little faster, and it's a bit higher. It gives you a bit better quality video output from the device. So we can hit OK, and if we give it a second, it should, if I did everything right, it should pop up.
I'm noticing that there's like a red square in the upper left of the preview window. Is that like?
Oh yeah, that's just the.
Is it like it's not like a cramp? It's not like accidentally in there with tiny or something.
Right. It is. Let's see. 192.168.1. Oh, I forgot one crucial part. You have to hit the activate.
That sounds important.
Yes, it is. There it goes.
Activated. And there now the window's expanded.
Exactly.
Cool.
So, yeah, now it fits the screen. So you won't hear the audio. The audio should be connected. That's one thing that doesn't change, is that you can't, to my knowledge, you can't see your audio inputs from these scenes in the for the preview. But you can definitely see the preview.
So there's no like audio queuing.
Right. You can't like set your audio beforehand. You have to go into the.
It's so funny. It's like a crucial feature of audio mixing.
You'd think, yeah.
But you know, like this is audio for video. It's a different set of priorities.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. It doesn't. Not that I've ever found that you can, do that. But if I were to switch, and I just hit, so with this open in the preview, I hit transition. You get there's a few options for different kinds of transitions as well. I can actually crossfade these if I use this little thing. So now you can, you probably can hear us twice now. See, now the audio mixer has popped up.
Oh, because now it's
I've toggled it.
because you're in between scenes, so it's adding a source. Oh, it's can you set the audio levels per like scene as well?
Do
you know what I mean? Cool.
If you had like different different inputs, yeah. Every scene has its own separate audio levels.
Cool.
So it looks like now the DroidCam is staying, and I think it's because I haven't like really pressed the transition button. It's like midway transition. So if I go back to this, now you can only hear us over the camera. But if I transition back, of course you can't see it. You can't see OBS anymore. But if we go in here and do, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Display capture, transition, hide the display capture. There we go. Now we're back to where we were. So yeah, that's the basics of like adding. And like I said, you can also like drag and drop stuff. Like say in our little stream folder here, we have some of these like intro videos. Here's the normal start screen. I can just drag and drop this into the preview. And, well, another thing, unfortunately, I don't think that you can play. Okay, you can play them. I wasn't sure if you could play them in the preview, but there you see it. It's above everything else, so if I put it down, there it is. So it's going to loop once, but I just dragged and dropped it. You have a few more settings if you double-click on things. You can see here, I've got a list of settings. And I can turn off, or I can turn on loop so that it continuously loops the video. That's how we do it in the start and end of the stream. It's just a seamless video that every time it starts over, it's on the same frame, so it looks like it's, it's just infinitely looping. So I can just set that, and now let's see if it actually loops in the preview. I haven't tested this before. You see it's like a 9-second clip, I believe. And then at 9 seconds, it loops. Yep, there it goes. So you can see the player down here, the actual timeline. And you can see it playing through. So if I transition to this is what you guys would see this full screen. So there it is. We're on the stream starting soon window now. So I want to turn this back. I'll get rid of this since this is not the right scene for this. So typically I just have this. You can see start and end are on their own scene over there.
We still got the
Remove.
I think.
Oh yeah,
we
you
still got
guys
the program up here.
see. Boop boop
There you go.
boop there. So you can see the start and end are in their own little their own scene over here. So I can actually, like, if I click on those, you'll see that these are in their own scene. So that's what you guys saw at the beginning. And we've got a little audio track, and the audio tracks are the same. If you double click on those, you just drag and drop them in. They've got a loop option as well, and that's pretty much all I do with those. Is I make sure, like, I've rendered out these 1080p videos, and we've got that are loopable, and then thrown in the audio right underneath that, and from there you get that. The audio is also a looping track, so it just creates this continuous, infinite soundscape essentially. So yeah. Let's see. So the next window over here, of course, you have your sound options. And if I were to this is your, like, level essentially. If I were to just drag this down, and then we'll come back again. So that's a super basic operation. I can add other sources. I go to audio input and hit OK. I can choose from all the different things that are accessible here. So, like, there's the DroidCam, which is this is the microphone from the phone. There's the Focusrite, which
Why does that say analog 1 and 2? 'Cause can't you get all 4 channels?
So that's one of the plugins that we use.
Oh.
So OBS is an open source program, and anyone can, like, get into the source code and essentially make plugins for this application. And one of those plugins allows us to actually have access to the different inputs that the Focusrite has.
So by default, it has that same problem that Zoom has. That's interesting.
Yep.
This is this seems to be a common thread across Windows applications, that there's difficulties with the audio drivers, which is why I'm still running a Mac after all these years. They're just the one advantage that I think still maybe is real and tangible, is that it seems like audio drivers are just a little more reasonable, but everything else is more of a pain, maybe. Like, you gotta really want it.
Yeah, I mean, Windows, it just takes you really gotta get a workaround going, and, like, we found a workaround for this particular use case.
Yep.
Is that all these down here, we're not using them at the moment, but if we wanted to, all these are part of a plugin called the ASIO input. And that allows us, if we create a new one here, you can see that we can select the device, which is our Focusrite, and then we can choose a channel and then now we can see all the channels that come out of the Focusrite. And that allows us to give you a stereo, like, feedback from, any device that we need. But we've kind of simplified that, and instead of using this, we're running the whoops, discard. We are just running everything that comes into the Focusrite into the ATEM. And we'll get to the ATEM software in a second here. We're almost done with the basics of OBS. Next is your scene transition thing. Or I guess another important part of the audio interface before we move on is this, like, advanced audio properties, which they're not that advanced. I feel like they're just the, like, necessary audio properties. So if you click on this opens a new window. And here you can set, like, your balance and whether you want to mix it down to a mono signal. You can do some volume adjustments. But the big thing is the monitoring and output, because a lot of times
That's hidden by the VIP right now.
Oh, it is. Oop, there we go. The big thing is the audio monitoring here, that allows, like, you to monitor what audio is coming into OBS. So while I'm sitting over here and Corey's doing his music thing, if the music's too loud and, like, or Corey's talking, like, is too quiet or whatever it is, I can hear it because I have this monitor audio input. this is the reason why wearing my headphones sounds weird, because I hear myself over the mix. Because when I monitor it through this, there's a slight delay, but Corey is hooked up straight to the focus rate, so he's getting a direct, yeah.
It's called direct monitoring.
Exactly.
It's very important. When you're trying to do, I mean, like obviously, like so with Jay's experiencing, like talking is a real time activity, and trying to do that real time activity while hearing yourself not in real time is incredibly distracting.
Yes.
And we're very sensitive to this. It does not take very much of a delay before it's really problematic. It's like a few milliseconds, like in the low tens of milliseconds starts to become really a big deal. So in music and digital audio, we stress really hard about getting as low latency as possible, because like playing sound in a room is like a zero latency event, and so we're trying to get as close to that with digital audio as possible. So anytime we can direct monitor, which basically what that means is that direct monitoring is monitoring in which case where there's no digital to analog to digital or digital to analog conversion. So my signal, like these mics, like what I'm hearing in these headphones right now is like I'm hearing this mic going into that other interface and then straight back to my headphones before it goes to the computer at all. So like what causes latency in audio situations, the source of it in our video situation is a little different, I think. I would like you to talk about that after this.
Yeah.
But for audio, like mostly like the source of latency, it comes from like conversion and digital calculation. So like processing stuff takes time, and the more complicated thing you try to do something, the more time it takes. So we spend a lot of money trying to make things real time, and spend a lot of time and effort trying to just like get it as close to the experience of real time doing to avoid distraction as possible. So like our audio setup here is, like I was saying before, is slightly convoluted for the purpose of feeding me a direct unprocessed signal. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, talking about syncing, you have another option here that's your sync offset. And you can do this in OBS, but because of the way that I've routed things now and the way that we've kind of changed it, you also have the ability to sync offset in the ATEM controller software.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
So the source of your sync issue with your audio is just the fact that you're monitoring through OBS, right?
Right. It has nothing, like, even if I change the sync offset, it wouldn't help me.
Totally. So Jay's delay is like, it's purely based on the fact that it's just going through a stage of analog to digital conversion, getting spit through some digital mixing soft that's not optimized for low latency, and then getting spit out again digital to analog, and that all takes like too much time for him.
Right.
Yeah. So okay, to clear that up.
So yeah, this is a different thing. So you guys would probably see that we are in sync. Like when I clap, hopefully that's in sync, which it actually might not be, because I've heard that and I haven't changed this yet, but we might do this live, that there is some latency between the line in jack on the ATEM between that and the HDMI inputs. So we'll see.
Since I'm direct monitoring, when he claps, it's about like that late, like but.
Wow.
He claps and then I see it happen. Like, but. So you can imagine, like, if you're trying to like sing a song and every time you sing like exactly. It's like really distracting.
So it's, and it's hard to tell exactly. That's why doing like test recordings before you start streaming or anything like that, to make sure that sync is correct, is really important, because it's hard to monitor that. Like, even if I'm sitting here listening to the audio, it may not be like really synced to the video. It's very difficult to tell unless you are watching. So like, you guys at home, obviously you can't see our mouths right now, so it's not as big of a deal with the syncing to that. But like when I clap, if that clap is off, which it probably is, I get a feeling that I probably should change that, but I'll show you once we get there.
I'm gonna pull the stream up over here and see if I can.
Yeah, see if Corey can see it on his
I'm curious.
on his end. So of course the stream itself is delayed from when we're actually talking.
Sure.
But you can see that real time, but we'll let Corey.
Oh, it's quite a big delay.
Is it? Was I clapping there?
Real time.
Oh, as far as like the talking part.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's about like no, I can't see what the sync is like at all. But like, I'm just gonna do a clap right now. Like just like.
Okay.
Oh, I think I've lost the stream. Oh, I just think so. So you keep talking, but I'll get there.
Okay. Corey's gonna watch himself clap in the past.
It's great, dude.
Is it
It's
synced?
honestly super well synced on
Oh,
screen.
sweet.
At least
Okay,
from my
cool.
end here.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. Well, that's what we like to see is well synced.
I hope everyone else is getting that same experience. That I'm not being fooled
Yeah.
by something, but it seemed fairly well aligned.
Cool.
But that's happening. Like it's funny because like so now that's getting the additional latency of getting spit through servers and going all around the world into a satellite or whatever. Like means that like we're getting this like probably 10 or 15 seconds after it happens.
Right.
You know, so it's not quite real time.
But it's cool. Like I'm glad that it's all synced up.
Yeah, it looked pretty good to me.
Sweet. Okay, so because that's the hard thing is like we're doing this right now. We're not exactly. I mean, we can sort of monitor. I mean, I see the OBS and what's going on, but
That's why I'm listening to the sound, just like so I can like make sure I don't like kind of like I forget to get off, or
right.
Or like if something goes wrong, I can tell. I heard you smack that mic a couple times.
Oh
like,
yeah,
like,
just bump it a
so
little
nice.
bit.
So interesting. There's no low cut on there, so like
You can just hear
it's thumping.
thumping. Yeah.
So this might be a good time to pull up the ATEM mixer and think about like rolling off low end or so.
Yeah, we'll definitely we'll talk about that. We got one more control panel.
Okay.
We got the scene, so this is just the same transition thing as up here. Super simple. You can fade between. You can fade to black. You can do the crossfade thing. You can just straight transition. And then over here you have your controls. Your start stream, your start recording, your virtual cam, which is what we use to feed to Zoom. Studio mode, which I turned on and talked about earlier. Settings, and then exit. And then at the very bottom we have our stream, like the health of the stream essentially. It's just telling us, okay, we've dropped some frames, but it's only 0.1%, which is pretty great. We've been live for 47 minutes. We're not recording, but we're using 11% of our CPU, and we're at 30 FPS. And the green means that we're good. Like sometimes this will turn red or orange, I think is the other color. And it obviously red is the worst, and that means that we're dropping a bunch of frames. But typically this computer holds up fairly well with the stream.
Oh, it's a tiny little meter, huh?
Oh yeah, can you see it down here?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the way down
hit
to the little bottom.
Let me move this lighting rig.
Oh, okay. Is that light even on?
No.
Oh, okay. We forgot to turn Corey's light on.
Oh, that's cool. It's so bright in here right now.
Okay. Cool. All right. So, yeah, we might as well. Those are the basics. Of course, there's so much more into OBS, but that's the basics of it. This is how we have it set up. I'm not using these right now. Like these, I could probably I can hit the minus. So same with adding. You can just subtract things. Like we don't need. It's nice to have all one mix. Mm-hmm. And if I needed to control it, we'll show you the actual Focusrite controller where I could adjust things specifically. If I needed to, like if Corey's music was too loud, or if his something was it's mostly to do with if he's playing something that's really loud, I can lower the volume of that in that software. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we can let me put us kind of back in here. I'm gonna set up our little thing again. Hopefully we won't be too much in the way. I'm gonna transition that, scoot us down, and then I'm just gonna take OBS and I'm gonna take it over here. Now Corey's going to be able to see OBS.
There's OBS.
And then what I want to bring up for you guys, so I guess Corey will be able to see, actually I can minimize OBS. That way you can see it. You'll be able to see what I'm looking at here. So let's start with the ATEM controller.
So we're kind of working our way now backwards from our destination, which is OBS. Mm-hmm. So ATEM the ATEM is bringing together all of our input sources into OBS. So so OBS sees everything as just one input. So like one video output or one video input and one stereo audio input. Mm-hmm. And so the actual mixing of those signals, the mixing of the video signals at least is happening here in this software.
So unfortunately, I cannot. I'll just scoot this down there. There we go. Okay. So in ATEM, in the software controller, so this gives me all the same access to the buttons and everything that it does like actually pressing the buttons. So it's gonna look a little weird here, but if I turn off, you'll see things start to change. Excuse me. If I turn off my picture-in-picture, which is my side over here, so now you're gonna see Corey, but you can see that the little on-air light turned on right here.
Yeah.
And I turn that off, and then if I switch, you can see that these switch to the different sources we have. There's my one camera, there's Corey's computer, there's the top-down view. You can see it changing down in the bottom right there. And there's the main camera.
It's me.
And then I can turn back on the picture-in-picture, and then we're back to where we were. So I can do the same with the mouse. I can switch between them. I can also use the preview mode, but this is the base version of the ATEM Mini, and it doesn't really allow you to utilize this preview and program mode. That's why I use the preview and program mode in OBS, because I can see it before I change it. So, although that's the thing, I can't see exactly what the ATEM's seeing. It's a little different, but there are ways that you can set it up that are kind of complicated, but there are ways that you can set it up to see a preview and a program. There's an HDMI out on the ATEM that you could feed to another monitor, if you wanted 3, that would show you the preview. So I could like check things before, just like I would in OBS. I could like check to make sure that Corey, didn't have something weird in the top-down view, or that it was like cricket, or that it was out of focus or something.
Yeah. For more like high-stakes applications than
which
casual stream.
Right. This is pretty casual, so I'm not too worried about it. But if you needed it, there's an option to do that.
It's definitely nice to it's a luxury at all, but it's really nice to just be able to monitor your signals in some way, whether it's audio or video, before you're feeding it to wherever it's going to go.
So the next level up of this ATEM, the ATEM Mini Pro, the HDMI out actually gives you a program and preview view.
Oh. Okay.
And it can show you all the inputs that you have at the same time, which is really cool.
That's super cool.
It's a little bit more expensive. I think it's like $150 more, but that's the main feature that you get with the Pro version. Which for most of my applications, I didn't really need it, and that I would be using, most of the time was going to be like still stuff. Like the big thing is if you're shooting in a location where you have like people on cameras. So like say you're shooting a live like theater performance, and like somebody on camera 3 was trying to get into a position, you'd all have mics on, and you'd be like, hey, camera 3, get a close up on so and so, or hey, camera 3, fix your focus. And then you'd say,
camera 3,
camera 3, what are you doing?
What's going on?
Like,
camera
zoom
3?
in closer.
Jeez, camera 3.
I want a close up, not a wide shot. And you'd be on a mic, you talk to him, and then you could like say, you say preview 3. Your director would tell you preview 3, so you bring 3 up for preview, and then you take camera 3. So you'd be ready.
So much of the additional complication is just being able to pass sound or video around without the audience seeing it. This this would all be so much simpler if we didn't want to do that. You know what I mean? So a lot of this added complication is just like for better monitoring, so we can see and hear what we're doing better. So we can preview it so that like we don't put something absurd up on the screen.
Exactly.
It's an interesting observation.
You've probably seen it in like news shows or something where they accidentally cut to something that they weren't supposed to, and then they cut back real quick, like anything live. Like they'll be like, oh, whoops, I switched to camera 2 on accident, and they're like struggling, try to get back to camera 1 or whatever. It's super easy to do in any kind of like live production environment where you have multiple cameras set up, and that's like it's a very team oriented thing, especially when you have people on these cameras. Like say we had all 4 of these cameras set up, and there were 4 people, like one person on each camera, and they were all moving around. I mean, typically you'd have like one wide shot, you'd have another close up, and then but if your people on the stage or whatever are moving, you've got somebody on a camera that they can walk around with and get shots, or they can just like pan and zoom and move around and adjust their focus and things. You want to be able to see that on like who's ever running the switcher wants to be able to see that stuff. So with that ability to use the preview and program, the ability to switch is kind of crucial,
Totally.
So, any larger setup, like say you, speaking of kind of part of this class, like through Access Humble, that's how they do their like live meetings, is with a, gosh, what is the brand name of those things? TriCaster is what they're called. And the TriCasters are essentially computers that are just this software with the preview program, all that stuff. They're huge. I mean, not always huge, but they can be huge. Like computer decks that allow you to do all that stuff in one.
Oh my god, these are crazy looking.
Yeah, maybe Corey will pull up a picture.
I'm trying to find one with like the desk solution. Like I see, like it seems like there's a lot of like networked boxes.
Right.
And then like control surfaces.
Yeah, the control surfaces are the thing. Let's see if I can get this up so Corey can show us one.
TriCaster, here we
There's
are.
the big boy.
That is wild.
So like, could you imagine? That's like for like some huge newsroom with like multiple sources, like people coming like streaming in from location or from like But
this looks like such like a weird spaceship.
yeah.
So okay, can you tell me like compared to an audio mixer, there's a lot of buttons because it seems like it's mostly you're just trying to switch between sources and
Exactly.
But then like these guys look like they're designed to be sort of like faders?
Yeah.
Are these two crossfades?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. They're just crossfaders, really.
Uh-huh. So that's how you get your like fades.
Mm-hmm.
Is you pick a source, then you fade from one to the other.
Right.
Okay, and then the joysticks
for your PTZ cameras. So your pan, tilt, and zoom cameras.
You can actually control the camera.
You can control them with a little joystick. Yeah.
Sick.
So that's what those are for.
That's super cool.
Of course, the PTZ cameras are a whole nother thing, but they're ridiculously expensive. See, they shrink a little bit. That one's cool. See, you can see here, actually, that's kind of like, or that one and the next one down. The next one down doesn't have the fader or anything, but this has, so the green is your preview, and the red is your program, just like in the ATEM thing.
So then, what are these other sections like?
A lot of those are for graphics and things. Like, say you had a lower thirds with the name of somebody, you can like turn on the graphic and then turn it off.
So this reminds me a lot of the podcasting mixers we were taking a look at earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing some online shopping, and they all have these like buttons for cueing sound effects and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're a podcaster and you're running a show, you might want a bunch of buttons that like play your like bumper music or like like play the theme song for your segments or whatever. So like the video equivalent is like pull up your graphics and probably with accompanying audio sometimes.
Oh yeah,
like all
of course.
Interesting, man.
So they shrink down a little bit.
Yeah,
See, this one doesn't have the PTZ controller, but that's like a really
That's a super specialized. You need a specialized tool to even connect to that, right?
The PTZ cameras. Yeah, but those are there's an even smaller one. How many inputs does that one have? Oh, that one doesn't even have. I don't even know.
This is just like a supplemental interface.
Oh, okay.
Second operator can independently play back stuff. So
interesting. Okay. I've never seen these fancy ones.
Yeah, those are really true.
I've seen some older versions, but these must be their new ones.
Totally. Anyways,
very cool.
neat.
Yeah. So let me shrink us back down. Hello, we're back. Over in OBS on the other screen. Or you can kind of see what I'm doing. Transition. There we go. So yeah, you can do a lot of the same stuff. Actually, I want to have that up so we can see the chat, just in case. On the off chance that
you're very optimistic.
Somebody talks to us. Yeah. So like I said, you can switch between the cameras. You can just play a color. So I blanked out Corey. I can show some bars.
Nice. Sick. Bars for days.
Yeah. And you can add different colors. You can customize all these. I don't know what this is. MP1. I'm not quite sure. Then I can go back to turn him back on. I can turn myself off here. I can do. These are for chroma keying, I believe. These backgrounds. You can key in different things. I can't turn that off. But then we also have. Oh, what happened? Restream decided to kick us out of the chat. It looks like we're still live. Okay, well, I guess the chat's going away then.
Bye-bye, chat.
Alright, so if you chat us, I guess you're out of luck.
Yeah, you can chat us on the old Instagram. I'll get it over here.
Okay.
Those of you who are champing at the bit to communicate right now.
Let's see. I probably should get it back up. Let's see what happened to your chat. Oh, there we go. I just need to reload it.
Oh.
Wait. Yep. Okay, we're good. We're golden. Okay. So yeah. I got the fader. So so this is not going to do anything because I have my preview and my program set the same thing. So if I go away and just get up the cam 2 as the preview, and the cam 2 is the fader, you can see, or the top down view, you can see I can fade in, and Corey you still see Corey, what he can do, it's some like music video looking stuff. You can like slow fade into the next scene, and then I can go back. Ooh.
Wow.
I can also do auto, so you can set a time rate to transition, which is cool. I can do just a straight cut, so I can actually select what camera I want to cut and then cut between.
Fun.
So typically you would, like, if you had the ability to do it and you had one of those TriCasters, you would select a preview, and then you would hit the cut button. So there's a cut button on here there is actually a cut. I don't know. It doesn't work. You have to do it in the software. But most of the time, like I said, for this kind of stuff, you're not really previewing program. You're just doing straight cuts. So
yeah,
at least for our application,
it seems like most like this is like giving those color fade into a color is like pretty like specialized thing that you want to do that.
Right.
And that generally you just be switching between inputs and mostly what you need to do could just happen from the physical controls.
Right. So this is the same controller that's used even on the huge ATEM. ATEM or Blackmagic, who makes the ATEM controllers, they're also like TriCaster have huge ones that that have like 10 inputs, so you can get just the same huge like decks for them. And this controller, the software is the same software that those huge ones use. So you have a lot of features that the big controllers use that aren't really, aren't necessarily super useful on the little guy.
I've got them pulled up over here.
Oh, you do? Okay.
See
Let's see. So in OBS, I'll go back. You can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to scale this up. I'm going to turn off the picture-in-picture, switch to camera 3. And you can see them all here if I translation. There we go.
So we're running the ATEM Mini in here.
Yep.
The cheapest one. And they just start to bump up features. So the
Yes.
other one, the Pro, is twice as expensive.
Oh yeah. See, I thought it was a little less, but yeah, it's sold.
But it has a hard disk recording and built-in streaming engine.
So that's interesting. I haven't really seen anybody use that feature, but it can do it. So those are exactly the platforms that we stream to.
Yep, YouTube.
So, but then you have to do everything in the switcher.
Yep.
And I mean, I guess it would be nice if you didn't have access to OBS, but even if you're running this, I guess you could essentially not even bring a computer with you. You could just have the A10 Mini Pro and run everything without a computer. That's the benefit of that. But
totally.
I'm
not really sure why you'd want that. That seems like who's doing this and doesn't have like a laptop.
Right, exactly. So that was my thinking too.
It's an interesting use case here. There's a lot of like rack-mounted monitoring.
Oh yeah, isn't that interesting?
Whole trippy system they've got.
Yeah.
So anyways,
so the next one over, the ISO version, essentially that will record every input and make you a DaVinci track.
Oh,
so DaVinci Resolve DaVinci Resolve is Blackmagic's editing software. So if you had the Mini Pro or the Mini Pro ISO, you essentially could, it will make you a project that has all those layers, and if you needed to edit it afterwards, you have the ability to go in and like cut between the clips. It records every single input. So like all 4 of these HDMI signals on the back, it would record every single one of those as separate tracks and save that as a A10 project or a Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve project.
This is a lot like the USB audio issue that we were trying to deal with earlier. We were looking at mixers that connect to your computer via USB, and a lot of them allow you to take a bunch of inputs, but will only spit the mix down to your computer. Just like the A10 Mini only spits out one video at the end. So like which is fine for a stream, you know. Like the kind of cool thing about what we're doing here is that we're streaming and since Jay's got the A10, he's sort of editing on the fly.
Right.
So like, you know, and for something like casual, like a stream, it's fine and not a big deal. But like, if you cared more about getting those cuts perfect and like, you know, you might want to edit the stuff. And so like then like having the ISO feature there allows you to just do the video equivalent of multi-track recording all of your inputs.
Exactly.
And then you can just make your cuts later. That's a really rad feature.
So
I can see why people would pay a little extra for that.
Oh yeah. And then going down, you have essentially the Mini, but with 8 HDMI inputs, which is crazy. Yeah. There's the multi-view, and this one has, there's a lot of buttons on there. And I mean, it's essentially the same as the one I'm using right here. And there's the same, like, this is insane that you can record 9 recording streams to clean feeds for all inputs. So you could essentially, and saving it. So that's recording like 9 different things.
And that's like,
is that 9? Where's the 9th one coming in at? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I have to scroll through this whole thing. Huh?
There's the Pro. There's the on air. So yeah,
I might have to like scroll through a whole bunch of things. Yeah.
There's the Extreme. So yeah.
I wonder if it's all 8 clean video feeds plus that's so cool. So like you record it all if you happen to cut it just great, or if you want what you did as a reference for your edit later. That's crucial. 8
inputs is insane. Like, I don't know what kind of studio you'd be running with 8 inputs, but like you could do a huge production with 8 inputs.
I mean, I think about like your standard sitcom is like standard multicam is like 3 cameras.
Right.
Like, and so like even like this like 5 in, you know.
Yeah, having the
or like 4 inputs plus the program is like, you know, that's like just some other rando cam like for whatever, you know, just like audience reactions or something like.
Yeah.
Covers a lot of ground.
8 clean feeds is it's crazy that can do that.
You know what's so funny is like that's just like nothing for audio. It's like a drum kit. But you know,
8 microphones on one. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about very apples and oranges type scenario at that point.
It's crazy. Like you could kit out a whole studio. I mean, yeah.
With this tiny little thing.
Like, with that little guy right there, it would be amazing. Like, yeah,
totally.
That's crazy. But that's not even like their big ones. Like if you go to their regular, we're getting down to the regular A10 ones. See, these are the TV studio A10s
with built-in displays.
That one's got a built-in. They've all got the built-in
talkback mics.
So I think the problem with the regular A10s is they're all HD, but these go up to 4K.
Well, even this one's still HD.
So the base one.
The big box before you get.
4K.
So
Pro.
that's why you're so stoked on that thing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, these are the big boys. There's an 8K one. That's the panel. That's the huge one. So that's not even as expensive as their 8K one. But that's still, I think that one's.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, there's the monster.
Ooh. Oh boy.
Like, could you imagine walking into a room with that thing? Like, what? I mean, sure, some like audio studios probably look like that. I mean, like they have the whole like board.
Yeah, man, like giant mixers, like they're so like big full size consoles are like, there's not that many of them. Like you hear about these like legendary consoles, and then you look up how many they made, and like like oh like these famous like SSL consoles, and like how many of that one did they make? Like 8.
Oh wow.
Or
really?
something like under 100 like in the whole world ever made kind of thing. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Like there's just these like giant tools that like it's like beyond furniture.
Yeah.
It's like all of the wiring in a house stuck in a giant box that's like half the size of a room.
They're almost like artwork. I mean, really,
Yeah,
like
totally,
I mean, it's a feat of engineering, really. Like
totally, but they just like don't actually like make that many of them.
wow.
You know?
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Like they get pretty wacky looking real quick. Although,
Can you get them like custom
remember,
built?
check it here. Those speakers are built into the wall.
Oh wow, yeah.
Oh yeah, they're pretty much all custom because they're so
Right.
when you're you can buy like little quote unquote little ones
Little.
but then like you get these kind of like big installations where you just kind of like order up the thing you want.
Studio grade. Wow, it's insane.
Anyways, yeah. So like, audio studios look very similar. And get like crazy intimidating.
One thing I've noticed with video studios versus audio studios is that in the video studio you have tons of monitors. A lot of times you'll have like you can output, some of the big decks will let you output that one preview to one monitor. So you could have a whole wall of monitors and be able to like, you can see your program preview on huge monitors across the whole wall. Like if you've probably seen it in movies where in a TV studio where it's like that you walk in, they have the deck or whatever, and then like the whole wall is covered in monitors, like sources from all the different cameras, all the everything. So,
you know how like convenient it would be if you could like hear 8 things all at once individually,
right,
and not mix together. like God, it would make my life so much easier.
right.
You know,
you
like
need 8 ears or something.
or well, like yeah, it's an interesting like here's where like the analogy between audio and video like falls apart, right? Like it's like because you can't hear 2 things, you can't hear 2 different things really. Right. I mean you can. But like it's not helpful.
No. Yeah.
So like in an audio situation, we have like, I mean, there's usually multiple sets of speakers, but only one's playing at once. But then you just have like a bunch of different, like tons of solo buttons basically to pick your source that you hear. And there's a lot of being like, I just want to hear this, and like so another reason why those boards get so big is because like a lot of times they're like grouping things. It's like, so then you not only do you need a fader for your like every input, but then you need a fader for the group. And then maybe all those groups feed into another group, and then you need a fader for that too. So like you get all these complicated routing options. So like not only like can you solo each individual track, but you could solo like all the drums or like all the instruments or just the vocals or kind of thing like that.
Wow.
You like every different way you could possibly look at it becomes helpful at some point.
It's crazy.
And so it's about like having more channels that you could possibly need because you don't want that's why those things are so scary because like no one like you can't imagine they're often using all those inputs at once.
Yeah.
But if like someone came through and wanted and if you have like a multi-million-dollar recording like studio and like someone comes through and is like, hey, I want to record this thing and I need 65 inputs and you only have 64, like you're gonna be pretty bummed out.
Yeah.
Like
that'd be crazy.
Like you're gonna lose your client and like so just.
Wow.
Pile on the inputs. I can't imagine who wants 64 inputs, but like,
yeah,
they're out there.
That would be like miking up an orchestra or something,
like close miking every instrument.
Yeah,
which is not a thing people do really.
So yeah, it's, I mean, this A10 Mini is probably, as far as I know, there may be other ones, but like when you're first learning switching, it's a great place to start because it's not intimidating really. You look at it, like you got 4 buttons, you switch between the 4 of them, and then you have like most of the other buttons are just audio controls that most of the time you don't have to worry about. So, let's peek back at this real quick. Let me transition over, finish up with this one, and then we'll go on to more of the audio. We've been talking a little bit about audio stuff. Yeah. But we'll get into the rest of it. So I pretty much covered all this. Over here, you have a few different panels. You have, you can generate colors for whatever you need, which I don't ever use. This panel though I do use. This is what's controlling this the picture in picture, which is how I am showing up on the side over here. You see down at the bottom, I disappear when I turn it off. That's this on air thing. It's allowing me to turn on and off this picture in picture mode, and I positioned it and I've sized it so the scale is normal, and the position is just scooched over so that I'm on the side. And this lets me fill in with different sources, so I can do any of the colors. I can change it back to the top-down camera. So like typically when Corey's doing his thing, this is just at the camera 1. So now there's 2 Corys. And then I can go in and like, obviously I have to resize it, but I can go in and reset it and set it up so that you can see him while he's doing the demos. So like if I change this camera 2, now he could like, essentially he could do, do the that's kind of a cool way to do it too.
Yeah, we've kind of never really done this.
No.
We have to reframe it, of course. But.
Yeah, usually it's a little small window, but like it's kind of cool to see you full screen. But I could like scooch it over a little bit if we wanted to, like, wanted this to Corey to take up less space, and that, now he's kind of in his own little sliver there on the side. So there's some really cool features you can do in this little window. You have masks, which I don't really use. Let me change it back so you can see me. You can put a drop shadow. This is all for that picture-in-picture thing. If I wanted like a shadow in between us, which would be kind of cool.
Kind of. Ooh, like a little dark, little border.
Little border.
Nice.
I can probably change I can actually set a border, although it's all the way around.
Yeah, it's all around.
By default, the border's on. I don't like the border, but it looks nice and clean with nothing.
Totally.
Borders are overrated.
Amen to that.
So then you have like patterns. These are all for transitions. You can do fancy. Whoa, actually don't know where I went.
Ooh.
I haven't messed with these much, but I can put myself in a circle.
I am delighted. I feel like we're heading into like Tim and Eric territory now.
I could probably make this like a hard shadow, maybe. Yeah.
Oh.
So now I'm in a little circle. It's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool.
So I can you can do the whole like Looney Tunes.
This thing's got like some wacky stuff under the hood.
Yeah, like why you need them, I'm not sure. I can invert it. Oh, that's a perfect circle. I can invert this, so I'm on the outside and Corey's in the little circle.
I can imagine some creative uses for this for sure.
Oh yeah, you could do some cool stuff, but it's all live, which is neat. Like
totally.
You guys can like see us doing this. And like the flying key. Oh, wow! I don't know what that's showing. Honestly, oh, it's the end of Corey's. It's like a hole punch through me and showing what's behind me.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I'm like, ugh.
I'm not quite sure I can scale that.
That's pretty. It's like a weird effect.
It is. I don't. You could play around and like find out what you'd use that for. But like you can make it kind of like
I could see like really dorking out with like setting up like framing a shot or two, and like if you wanted to make like some like creative like music video thing or something, like, or some like art video type
right
thing, like where like you like creatively frame this somehow, or like
it's like a hole through.
Yeah, getting a little performative like like I don't know.
Some weird stuff.
Obviously this
Corey's face could be my face.
Oh.
Get in there like one of those. Yeah.
This is a fun use of this for sure. All right, I think we figured out why. Thank goodness they included that.
Yes, for sure. I don't actually know how to turn it on. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's not right. So I could like be in a sliver, I guess. Maybe this is the better way to do the picture-in-picture thing. Well, I'm not sure. I have to mess with this some more.
Yeah, we'll have to play around with it. It's definitely interesting. Did you show the Star Wars transitions yet? That's my favorite part.
Oh yeah, haven't got there.
I do love those.
I think. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that actually switches the mode, I guess, of that. Cool. Huh. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's another thing I can mess with in the future.
Neat.
But yeah, you have the ability to do a lot. You have chroma keying, which is not going to work because we don't have a green screen. And then you have luma keying, which is kind of weird, and I don't really understand how it works, but it's there if you want to do it.
What is that?
I think it's just.
You don't need to show it necessarily, but like.
Yeah, luma keying, as far as I understand, is you can key out certain brightness of lights, like if I had camera 1, see how it kind of changes color?
Yeah. Yeah, it's got super saturated all of a sudden. Is it pulling saturation? Is this like a is it like getting saturation information from some other channel or something?
Yeah, it kind of like, you can do some like really weird. See, this
It reminds me of those like Photoshop like blend options.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre. What if we? Honestly, not quite sure what it's trying to do, but it's there. It's something to mess with. But for now, this DVE is the picture-in-picture settings, and that's what I've used so far. It seems like you can use the pattern mode to create that same sort of idea. We could do like a cool like split screen.
That's kind of interesting.
Oops, that rotates it.
Neat.
So for size, we could do like a quarter, like a quarter and quarter. I'd have to go over here. But that's kind of cool. Like
got a little zest.
Yeah. See, that's a little different than what we've done before.
Totally.
So,
little zesty image.
Then I think that I could still. I guess you can't use picture-in-picture when you've got this mode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This gives you a little bit more options as far as like how you want to do, because the picture-in-picture doesn't have any of that cool stuff where you could like set it up, in that pattern mode. Like if I wanted to, if I wanted to be in the little bottom right corner, I could actually position. Although, you position your camera and then you have to frame in your subject with the camera. Like if I really wanted to be like in the bottom corner here, in this little bubble, we do like Japanese game show style, where you got the person's face down in the bottom and they're like,
oh yeah,
doing the reactions or whatever.
Oh, totally. Mm-hmm.
I could do a little circle and then position it here. So you can, whoa, hello, there we go.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
But man, like, so this is like the cheapest switcher too. So like, like it's pretty neat that like all this kind of stuff is like still baked in, like kind of like these like fun features. Like it seems like the pro feature, like the more money you spend, like it gets you these like pro features that are more essential in like pro workflows.
Oh yeah.
But that like for something simple like a stream, this thing is more than capable.
Right.
It has a bunch of cool sound settings too, which is interesting.
Oh yeah.
I like that about it. But we can talk about that.
So yeah, other than that, you have the transitions like Corey was talking about. A lot of these are actually controlled on the switcher itself, which is cool. I can set the basic transition. So let me turn off my picture-in-picture and just go to Corey here. If I hit this auto button, I know you can't see it at the moment, but if I hit this auto button, and then I switch to a different source, so like this, you can see that automatically fades. And let's grab OBS real quick just so I can show you what I'm hitting on that thing. Let me switch to my phone. And now I'm on the phone. You should hear us from both the ATEM. It looks like you can hear us from both the ATEM and the...
Seems that way.
I don't know what this... Okay. I'm muted. ATEM, ASU input. Oh. Now you can hear us on the phone. Real quick, what I'm hitting, there's a few buttons here. If it focuses, there we go. You have your regular cut, which is what I usually use. You have an auto, which is what makes the makes things use these different effects. So up here you have like a dip to white. You can change the color that it dips to, and then you have some pushes and some and some swipes, I guess you can call them. And then you have a fade to black, which just totally cuts out everything. It just, I'll show you. We'll switch back to the regular view, and you can see what I'm doing there. But I'll fade back in. That turns back. We transition back. You should be able to hear us again. So okay. So here we put down OBS. So when I hit those, you can see Corey down here. When I have auto on and I switch, it's going to fade between. And I can select another one. So this is dip. It's going to dip to white and then come back, which is pretty cool. Then you also have the Star Wars effects that Corey was talking about. There's like the swipes back and forth. There's a few different kinds. There's the smush. And there's like the swipe. Whoops. Kind of there's the Star Wars ones. Oof. This like kind of faded swipe back and forth.
Yes.
So those are pretty cool.
Oh, they're so satisfying.
And this is the fade to black. So essentially it just locks it in. So if like before you start an event or something, you can like have it blacked out and then you can come back up. Yeah, and then let's see, downstream keying is some other features that I don't really use. Fade to black is just setting up the rate at which it fades out, so you can set that really high if you wanted to. You have your media player where you can insert stuff. So I don't have any hyperdecks. Those are those other things we were looking at. I don't really use any of this. A lot of the stuff you don't need. I mean, it works out of the box. You don't even need the software, honestly. This just gives you a bit more capabilities. Well, there's a time code, video capture. Yeah. So then down here, we have a few more options. We have media, which is all those things that you can add in stills and then overlay these stills onto your video. I haven't quite used this feature a whole lot yet, because most of the time I do it all in OBS. So I just I throw in images and then turn them on and off in OBS. But you can do it here as well if you wanted to.
It seems like it makes a lot more sense for like a practical workflow, since you're probably designing and collecting those images on your computer to not then transfer them to the ATEM just to trigger them there.
Exactly.
But if for some reason your workflow didn't involve OBS, then...
Exactly. Like if you had that other ATEM that doesn't require the computer and you just had the preview out, you can load up all your stuff here. I don't know how you get it on there because you kind of do it through the computer.
Right. I mean, you'd have to do some sort of digital transfer.
Right. I think.
Well, actually, I think that thing takes USB sticks.
Oh,
and it records
maybe.
to USB drives, so maybe you can transfer via USB.
Yeah. Because I don't know how you'd have access to all this stuff actually without a computer, anyways.
That's a good point.
So
yeah, I'm sure like a lot of there's a lot of stuff like that now where it's like you transfer the stuff to it via the computer, then you can use it without it. There's a lot of like samplers that work the same.
Right.
You know, so when you load it with your audio files via the computer, and then you can take it away.
I see.
But like so you could you use the Mini without a computer? Could you just send the output? Oh, it doesn't have an output, right?
It does. It has an HDMI out.
But isn't there something funny about this one that's like, it doesn't. It's like it's just the program.
Yes, this one is just the program.
So you could use this to just like hook it up to a TV and run like if you wanted to, and that might be a reason to have these things. Like if for some weird reason you wanted to do it without a computer, like it's possible.
Exactly.
Like I can't imagine a workflow in which that would be desirable, but it seems like they've created a product for that person.
Yeah, you have a lot of different approaches you can use.
Totally. So. Yeah, a lot of these, if you're looking to buy equipment, you might find that the thing you want that has the features you want also has a lot more features than what you want. We were just noticing this, but it's because it's things are designed to be flexible for different workflows, and your workflow may grow and change, and you may be glad you had the thing later. That's definitely happened to me before.
Exactly. So this is what Corey was talking about. We're kind of getting into the audio side. Or before, how about we? I'll just show this one real quick. This is just. It looks like there's a lot here, but really there's not much because most of these controls only work with the Blackmagic cameras. So specifically, Blackmagic makes these switchers. They also make really nice cameras, but through this software, through the HDMI cable, you can actually control the cameras, which is really cool. Although I've never been able to try it because I don't have access to a Blackmagic camera. They let you actually control some of the settings. Of course, it's not going to do anything because none of them are hooked up. But you can see that this camera's on air. Camera 4 is on air, which is my camera up here, and camera 1 is on air, which is Corey's camera. And this, this would allow you to zoom and to adjust your aperture and your gain and your shutter and your white balance, everything from here, which would be super awesome. Imagine having 4 Blackmagic cameras and you can control every single one of them right from here, and you don't have to go mess with the camera.
So cool. This
Right.
is kind of like that. Like what is the term for the joystick thing? The like.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of like
PTZ?
the PTZ, so pan, tilt, zoom.
But this is a lot more in depth, right? Because you can.
Yeah, some of the PTZs, well, the PTZs are weird. The only ones I've ever messed with, you get like a little remote, and it's kind of dumb because you have to like point the remote at the thing and like go through the menu, and it's really janky. But this, if you had one of those cameras hooked up, you could just control it all right here. So you had the Blackmagic Pocket 4K, which is kind of overkill because this can only do 1080.
Right.
So they do make little pocket cinema cameras that are probably like, I don't know, that big. I've never seen one in real life, but they're little 1080 cameras, and you have 4 of those, and you hook them all up, and you've got a whole like really nice quality studio, and you can control it all from here. You get, you have people on the camera. All those you'd have to have. They don't actually have displays on them. So who's ever like running the camera, you could just set them up and walk over here and see the previews, which is kind of a pain. They would kind of need displays.
I think they're new.
But,
I don't know. I guess the new ones do. At least the 4K ones have displays. But.
What's that? For the pocket cinema cameras? Yeah, the pocket cinema cameras do. There's another one.
Oh, but it's like the micro. Or
the micros, yeah, they don't have screens. You could attach a screen. You could get some really cheap HDMI or monitor, like little. They make little teeny monitors for those cameras that you could put on there, and then you'd have a display. But it may not be as like, you might as well just get the Pocket 4K, because then you get a screen, you get a built-in display.
Yeah, they're not that much more expensive. It's $1,000 for the micro and $1,300 for the 4K, and it seems so it seems like the advantage of the micro, like really the only strong reason to buy the micro is if you need it to be micro.
Right.
In their pull up my screen real quick and you'll see why they think you might want micro.
So got the fancy fade.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in Star Wars. So yeah, mount it on your drone if you want.
On your drone.
Or whatever. So like, I really like. It seems like that's like who they are advertising this for.
Right.
It's like. But it's pretty neat.
It's a little
that
tiny
is
guy.
tiny as heck. That is super cool. So you can mount this thing just anywhere.
Exactly.
It's really fancy. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's not. You could still like. There's the 4Ks like, the micro. I mean, they call them cinema cameras, but yeah, you need a external display, for your person on the camera.
Right.
That's the only problem with them. I mean, you could set them up and I guess dial in all your focus, but you couldn't like frame it. You'd have to keep walking back and forth. Or if you had like maybe a wireless monitor, you could watch, you could watch all the feeds. I'm not sure how you'd set that up. That would be an interesting challenge. But these are pretty popular little cameras, and they spit out some really beautiful pictures.
It's like it's more affordable than I would have suspected.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's all relative with this kind of thing, but like you can spend a lot of money on digital audio and video equipment, and like for a high quality capture device that would be like worthy of being your primary camera, $1,300 is not expensive at all. Like you can easily spend that much money on like a single microphone that would be like your one microphone. If in a studio recording setting, and you'd still need all the other tools to actually capture what it was picking up,
Right.
It's like buying a $1,300 lens, kind of, almost.
Oh yeah.
The analogy falls short somewhat here too, right? But like
those do not come with lenses either. So.
Oh well, okay, there you go.
Then you'd have to buy the lens with them.
Thank you for the reminder. There's a very good point.
Yeah.
But yeah, right. They show them all with lenses on them.
Right.
But of course, they don't come with one. Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Totally. Cool.
But yeah.
Do you want to talk about the audio stuff?
Yeah, let's do audio now.
So we'll work our way backwards from the ATEM features to because we're not actually using them, the audio features in the ATEM really, but they're kind of cool. I almost want to think about doing this differently so we can, because I want a high cut on your mic, dude. Because like that.
Oh,
like,
I'm
like,
still bumping it. Yeah, yeah.
But like, thump it again real quick. Yeah, it's like boom. It sounds like a Godzilla footstep or like a T-Rex footstep, you know?
Nice.
Like it sounds actually really great. Use that for some Foley. Basically, so what we're seeing here is an audio mixer for all of your input sources into the ATEM. So the cameras all have microphones too, so you can see you see the meters moving, and you can see a bunch of grayed out meters on cams 1, 2, and 4, and that's like this camera right above me, and like the one pointing at me and Jay's. They're all picking up audio right now, and we just don't want to hear it because we have nicer mics in use. But this basically allows us to mix all of our sources. So
right. If I turned on cam 4, here's some nasty audio. You want to hear it?
Sure. I can't hear it actually. So.
Oh, we probably can't hear it, but you guys can hear it. It's kind of gross.
All right. Well, I'm glad I didn't hear it. So you can do like basically here you have your kind of like general basic audio controls. Input you can kind of see like the signal routing. The way it works is like signals flow into the ATEM and then they move from top to bottom here. The analogy here is a lot like a physical mixer. I pulled one out here thinking I'd want to use it to talk about, but I can just point at this one. This one's so logically organized that like
cool.
Well, here, actually, cut over here real quick, Jay,
okay.
just real quick. I pulled this thing out. I might as well show it. I think I've nudged this camera a little bit. So this is one of our mixers at Mars. This is the one that we've used for shows for a long time. That's why it's so dirty. And
oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah, this was our live tool.
Oh, I didn't know it had a history.
Yeah. This was the mixer until we had an identical one donated, and then we got then Chuck donated the Focusrite. Thanks, Chuck, for that. Still using it. Thank you, Chuck. And so we haven't needed all these inputs. But so like this is a traditional kind of like analog mixer. This is a really popular model actually. You'll find Mackie 1402s like all over the place. It's like a kind of basic feature set. It was presumably affordable at the time. So the idea of an audio mixer, like a physical mixer like this, is to do the same thing that ATEM's doing but for sound. It's to take all your input sources and mix them together into one feed that you can send wherever you need to send it. I'm not going to get too in depth with this because we're talking software, not hardware today. But just to like show you like what a traditional mixer looks like. So like the analogy would be like instead of a HDMI input, we have XLR inputs here, which are the connection that microphones use. And there's also line connections for if you want to plug like a guitar or a synth or like run some other piece of hardware directly into it. These feature a gain control, so you can control like how hot the signal comes in. It's called trim on this thing, but like trim or gain, they're often the same thing. And then here we have EQ controls that allow us to adjust the frequency balance. Like we just have 3 knobs on this thing labeled high, mid, and low, and that's a really common setup. You'll see in the ATEM software that there's a little different thing going on. And then we have some panning controls, so we can move it left or right. Remember, this is like audio is stereo mostly. Then we have a couple buttons, a mute button, so if we don't want to hear it, a solo button if we only want to hear that. And that's pretty much all. Oh yeah, and then the fader, of course, to control the level that actually gets sent to our master channel. So you notice there's already two places you can turn this up. So you can turn up the gain here. So if your source is really loud, you might need to turn it down. If your source is really quiet, you might need to turn it up. And then you can use your fader to mix. So you can then over the course of like a performance, you might need to turn it up a little bit or turn it down. You know, you might bring other things up, bring some things down. So the faders are here to like kind of perform with, or at least to like do your job with. So like, and then you can route the signals to a bunch of different places here too. So they all go out to the main output, but you can also send them to different outputs using these knobs up here. So the mixer does a few different things. It allows you to take a signal in and adjust how it sounds, and then you can send it to different outputs. And so all these extra ins and outs here and like all this stuff over here, without getting too deep into it, is just like allowing you to route channels to other sources and route those sources back into the mixer and do stuff like that. So like say I want to like send something from this channel out to some other processing and then back into another channel, I can do that. So it's always good to have like more channels than you need for like things like processing. This thing has 14 channels of input, but 8 of them are stereo channels. So that's why you only see 10 faders here, because there's actually, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so these can be mono or stereo, though.
Cool.
So, anyways, so
that pretty much,
that's how a mixer works.
So if we go back and look at the ATEM one, it's practically exactly the same.
Yeah, you're seeing almost identical arrangement, right? So those knobs up top are trim, gain.
So this is the one
controls.
that's live, I guess. We can use this one as an example.
Yeah, totally. We can even it'd be cool to mess with it even a little bit. So as we said before, we're doing all of our combining of our audio signals before we hit the ATEM, because I want to direct monitor, and the ATEM doesn't have that feature. So that's why Jay and I's mics are getting combined. So we're all both and my computer sound.
It looks really quiet on here, but that's only because for some reason OBS, I'm not quite sure of this little hiccup that I've run into, is that OBS for some reason takes it in really loudly. And Corey might, like, I think we kind of mentioned it before, like,
This is a crazy quiet signal.
So yeah, it looks really quiet, but then you look at it on the ATEM or on OBS and it's a really decent signal. So I'm not quite sure
Is this actually coming through though?
Yeah.
There it is. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like that's a totally reasonable volume. But
Yeah.
but that's interesting. There seems to be some sort of like intermediate gain occurring.
Which I've checked, and you can add filters. That's another thing I didn't really cover on OBS. But yeah, it's just it comes into OBS very hot for some reason.
I wonder why. I would be curious if it's the ATEM. Well, everything comes on OBS hot, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So it's OBS.
Yeah.
Super weird. Because that's definitely way hotter than like what it looks like it's getting spit out of the ATEM.
Exactly. This looks so quiet, but
Absolutely. Well, so
that's why I have that 20 dB gain, this minus 20 dB pad on this input and on all the inputs because it's so loud.
Wacky. Yeah. So like that is like a crazy low level. Interesting. Okay. Well, I would love to help you troubleshoot this. I think this is solvable. Well, I don't know if it's solvable, but it's weird for sure. Okay, so anyways, so the topology of this mixer, how this is working, the routing.
Okay, so yeah.
So we have up top our trim controls. Then we have the equalizer. And so instead of our 3-band EQ like we have on this mixer, we have a full parametric EQ here, where you can so the idea of the equalizer is you can adjust the balance of frequencies, but now like here, so if you want to like boost the high frequencies, like
you guys will probably hear this.
Yeah, you can use a high shelving boost. Yeah, don't go too crazy with that. I wouldn't push it further than that. This has an extreme range of settings. It goes very high and very low. You could probably like demonstrate like here, turn on band 6.
Band 6.
And sweep that down real quick, so you can, as I'm talking, like you'll hear my voice like start to get like filtered out and like keep going down, and like it'll start to become kind of unintelligible probably, like
as far as I can take.
Yeah, so you can probably still hear it, but it probably sounds real muffled, like I got I got a third or fourth mask on, and then here, pull it back up so they can hear me. And then boom. So that's called a low pass or a high cut filter. So there's these 6 bands, and each of these bands has an adjustable shape that you can use to manipulate this frequency response curve that you're seeing up top. So up top, that like flat straight blue line, that's like the frequency adjustment. So right now, and then so left to right are the frequencies from 1 hertz to 20,000 hertz, and then vertically it's that axis of decibels, so plus or minus 20 decibels. He can basically like if say my signal had too much high end, you might engage a low cut. If it had too much low end, you might engage if it's too much high end, you might engage a high cut. If it's too much low end, you might engage a low cut, like that. Yeah. I would actually really like to do that to Jay's mic, because that would solve the sub thump when he smacks it. But we can't do that in this setup because I'm feeding my computer audio through this one channel as well. So if it would make Jay's mic sound great, but it would make any bass sounds that I made on my computer sound terrible. So we're keeping this EQ flat here for now.
Yeah.
But it's a really nice feature, and I think our setup will evolve to take in our sources from multiple inputs, so we could do some more audio mixing, because it's really nice to. You don't want to treat like my voice on this microphone has very different needs than like a nice clean sound made purely in the computer, you know.
And the way we could do that, what you can see, every single one of these cameras has their own EQ. So if we were to feed the mics into the cameras, I can take those and turn each one on. But the problem is that every camera has their own preamps, and sometimes those preamps in the cameras have noise and can introduce some other problems with the sound, and it's feeding through a lot of different things. You got the mic going into the camera, then going through the HDMI, and then into the ATEM, and then you control it there. So
the longer your signal path and the more steps in it, usually the more noise you get. And so like the battle against your noise floor is like a total thing. So you know, so we're striving for simplicity, like, but also trying to do all these cool things. So okay, so anyway, so keep running down this thing. So dynamics is the next section. So this is not a feature on this hardware that I have, but this is a compressor. I feel like we could do an entire stream on this, and I don't really want to talk too much about it. But basically, what a compressor is a tool. Well, and this is actually like a pretty full feature thing that it's got like an expander gate section and a compressor and a limiter also. So it's basically got like three. So dynamics processing. If we think about like an EQ is dealing with different frequencies. Dynamics processing is dealing just purely with different loudnesses. So the idea is that like it takes a source that is maybe too dynamic and makes it less dynamic. So which means that like volumes are more consistent. I feel like compression is so that's like compression generally is like smoothing out of dynamics, so like making things like keep cutting down like big spikes and peaks and making things more even. What an expander or a gate does is like cuts things to silence, or drops the volume. It's like the opposite of a compressor. It like drops the volume of things when they get quiet. So okay, an expander or a gate turns things down when they get too quiet. A compressor turns things down when they get too loud. And a limiter is just a compressor that works extra hard. So what a limiter does is like it's a compressor with that has a hard limit. You cannot get louder than a limiter. So like if you had a sound that was peaking, you might engage the limiter to keep it from peaking. Again, I have a hard time imagining why you'd want this in like a in like a kind of general situation that you'd be using this kind of setup with, where you're mostly dealing with voices or like audio. Like say maybe I had some crazy peaky feed that I was sending you, like maybe a limiter would help, but you just tell me to turn it down. Right,
exactly.
So like I don't know, but maybe there's some pro video audio folks who would tell me exactly why you'd want this in that situation. So
just
like,
for safety reasons, I'd imagine is the big thing. Like if somebody all of a sudden shouts or something, you're doing an interview and somebody gets real loud,
Yeah.
At least you don't peak it. You
totally.
Just have
That's what a limiter is for.
Right.
And then So that's the dynamic section. I really do believe that I could do an entire 2-hour stream on this subject.
I'd love to know
and
more
not
about
exhaust
the
subject, But anyway, so dynamics processing, pretty handy and cool. So then basically we have here our faders, just like I have on the mixer. There I went, and here I come again. And then panning. If for some reason you wanted to pan.
Now we're all the way in your left ear.
Yeah.
Now we're all the way in your right ear.
Yeah, fun. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure. So you might do that, like say like if you had like you see how we're like on the left and right, like if we were able to pan our mics a little left and right, it could sound kind of cool.
That would be neat.
But that sort of stuff kind of annoys me, actually.
Does it?
Okay, so like I like to listen to a lot of podcasts.
It does.
And like there's this one podcast I listen to. It's like a 3-host thing, and they always pan them left, center, right, where it's not hard, but like one dude's always a little more on the left, and one other dude's always like equally far on the right, and the other dude's in the middle. So. If I'm listening on like my earbuds and I like pop one out, like as I'm like walking the dog or like doing the dishes or just whatever, like all of a sudden like
you can't hear the
one of the guys is louder than the other one, and then the third guy is quieter than the other two, like so it's like loud, like it's pretty funny. They're all supposed to be the same volume, but when you only hear one ear, it's like one's louder, then one's a little quieter, then the other's a little quieter. So it's like.
Yeah.
Being mindful of your audience and how they're going to be consuming whatever you're producing.
I definitely
important.
feel like I've listened to some music and been like, I've never heard that before. And like, I thought like, it goes quiet for a second and they're like, what? But then if you have both of your phones in, you'll hear the whole thing. But if you
Yeah.
don't, you can miss a part of something.
I get the opposite effect a lot, where it's like if you're used to like listening to something like in your car or like in a situation where you're not actually getting a good stereo separation. I mean, car can be pretty good, but it's not great.
Right.
Like you're always sitting more to one side than the other in your car, so like the stereo field is always a little funny.
True.
You're never in the middle,
Interesting.
right? So it's like you're sitting in front of one speaker, you're gonna hear that speaker better.
I think some cars allow you to actually change it. Like some fancier cars have like where you can like position the center of the mix. It's crazy.
Good, because it's a really silly. I mean, what can you do really without that DSP? But anyways, when you put on headphones, all of a sudden the stereo field becomes really apparent, and so like things that might not have popped out because they were kind of interestingly stereo, like if you're just used to hearing it in a way where like you're really far from the speakers or you're closer to one than the other, you don't actually get that imaging. And then all of a sudden new things pop out because they're like, if all of a sudden things are wide that weren't wide before. It can be a pretty fun effect. Okay, I'm rambling.
But yeah, and I don't know, like this looks like it would have a headphone monitor, but that's probably one of the more advanced ones.
Does that button not do anything?
No, doesn't do anything. I can turn it on, off.
Yeah. But, so yeah, it's a common thing that people do is they'll like just have the same software and just gray out the features for the
So there's another part with the audio on the thing. It's called the you can see the option there, the AFV, which is like audio follows video. So it's kind of an interesting setting where if you have multiple cameras and like say you have one camera mic'd up to one person, it's actually kind of useful, where if you had one camera mic'd up to someone and another camera mic'd up to someone, and that was their close-up shot, you can essentially, when you change cameras, the audio signal will follow with that change of your camera. So I can demo it. So if I turn it on, you'll see the now. Hold on, let me turn off. Okay, you're gonna hear us kind of weird. I don't know. Cam 1 it's probably sounds disgusting, but it's in the middle of the room. But you can see if I switch cameras, if I go to camera 2, it's going to switch to, you're going to hear the sound from the overhead camera. Actually, I have to turn them all on. So it's going to swap. You can see in the preview that it's now on cam 2. You probably can't hear me very well because it's way over there. But you can make it so that it follows the cameras when you switch. So like if you did have an interview style thing and you wanted to switch audio sources, you feed their audio into the one camera, into the camera that's facing them, and you can essentially do that.
Yeah.
If we go back, I can turn those off, and now you can hear us nice and clean again. And then, of course, whoops, bump my mic again. You have your master mix at the end where you just have your fader and everything, and you can apply some EQ and dynamics to the whole track if you wanted, to everything. Yeah, and I think that covers all of the ATEM software control, at least the main parts of it.
Sweet. So we're getting close to the end of this rundown, I think. So the last step is my wheelhouse, I think, which is the Focusrite mixer software. So, I'm a real diva up here, and I really want to hear what I'm doing in real time. I'm still got my headphones on. It does not bother me to hear what I'm hearing because there's no delay, because I'm hearing it direct. And this is what allows us to do that. Like this audio interface is basically like a digital mixer that connects to our computer. It's missing a lot of the features of this mixer. There's only one volume control. There's no, like at least in hardware, there's no EQ. There's no routing options. All that stuff happens in software. So this is really common of these mixers. This particular Focusrite interface we're using is called the Scarlett 6i6. Other really popular ones include this thing that's sitting right next to me that I'm using for my computer sound, which is the Scarlett 2i2. This is a very popular tool, but doesn't quite solve our problems here. 2i2 only has 2 ins and 2 outs, and we need more than that. So it's perfect for sending the audio straight from my computer. But then it hits the Focusrite 6i6 that Jay's got. So what you're seeing here, you're seeing a mixer But I think what you're seeing is actually really confusing. And so let me explain why. Remember how I said like my hardware mixer allowed us to send our signals to multiple outputs? Well, like this allows us to do the same thing, but it actually allows us to make a different mix for each output. So Jay, if you click over on the left there, you'll see like different looking setup somewhat right. on the where it says hardware inputs and software playback on the right. So like you could like hit the mute buttons on those or something.
Oh
like
that. yeah. So like this is Corey's headset.
That's
right
my head. So this is my. So if he hits that mute button, I can no longer hear Jay.
Ah, you can't hear me,
wait,
or you can't hear yourself.
Oh, that's me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So if I muted this one, he wouldn't be able to hear me on that.
Yeah, totally. Oh man, and that's making me realize why I like having headphones because it's actually kind of quiet over here.
Now he can't really hear me very well.
Totally. And then inputs 3 and 4. Is my computer audio.
So he can still hear his computer. Now, if I were to, he won't like this. But if I mute all.
There it is. Now.
Oh, because I muted. You will be hearing yourself echo. If I.
And I'm hearing infinite recursive echo.
You like that?
Well, it's a little less annoying than a single slapback, which I find really distracting. This is just kind of like a nice juicy delay. It's pretty fun. So I'm getting the audio equivalent of Jay's video recursive feedback, where I'm hearing an endless stream of repeats of my voice. It's pretty distracting, except I really like recording music with a lot of reverb and delay, so I like used to this. It's a really extreme value.
So it's interesting. So how come?
So the reason it didn't work, why we couldn't hear it when you muted those, is because, well, so each of these mixes, like we have 3 different mixes.
Mine works when they're all muted. Like
yes.
I can still hear the
Yes.
You're getting there.
I'm getting there. So we have 3 different mixes here that correspond to different physical outputs on this unit.
Okay.
So there's the first mix. It's labeled there monitor outputs 1 and 2, but that's actually shared with headphone output 1.
Mm-hmm.
So that's mix 2, which is my mix, is headphone 2, but it's also shared on line outputs 3 and 4. So line outputs 3 and 4 are how we are connecting that thing to the ATEM.
Okay.
So the reason why when you muted those things, the feedback didn't work is because you muted my mix, which is also the ATEM's mix. So you weren't feeding anything to it either.
Okay.
This is the downside of this interface, is that these are 2 separate outputs. They're all physically separate. There's 2 headphone outputs and 4 line outputs. So they're physically separate, but they're not wired separately. They're not separately addressable.
Interesting.
Right? So you can't. So headphone mix 1 is the monitor mix.
This one.
Yeah. And
so I'm using the monitor mix.
Yes. So in a studio recording situation, like I honestly wouldn't mind this too much. Like for the most part, like the idea here is that like here's what they're thinking when they're marketing this, right? Is that like the 6i6 is for people who are going to maybe record somebody else. That's why you get a second headphone output, so you can bring someone over. Okay. So, like, if you're the producer and you're working at your computer and doing your thing, probably what you want to hear in the headphones is the same sort of thing you'd want to hear on your main speakers. Just you put on headphones when you need the speakers to be quiet so you can record with a microphone.
Right.
Right? And then, like, you want to give your person that you're recording a separate mix. Mm-hmm. Because they're, like... they might want a different mix. Like usually people who are recording want to hear themselves a little louder, so you can turn like in the studio over there, like on the headphone mix 2, I have the microphone turned up 6 dB by default because everyone always asks me to do that, so I just leave it there.
Okay.
And they're kind of assuming that you're probably not doing like using a lot of outboard gear,
right?
And so it's really like a headphone output or a line output, and it's not really meant to be used as both at once, is my suspicion. If it were, they'd be independently addressed. Like like there's no reason the software mixer couldn't do that. It's literally just like it's missing some
like physical hardware thing
out,
to
like a physical, it's missing some channels of AD conversion or DA conversion, digital to analog conversion.
Interesting.
Right. So that's why you can get a bigger interface with more inputs and outputs and to be more flexible with your routing.
I see.
So we're getting kind of like you can see us talking through these funny like bottlenecks that we run into with this,
Right.
and it's really like it's all because of my diva-ness. And so the whole reason is that I can get my own mix of this, and that mix can come to me. Ooh, I'm gonna get lit up here. Little magic hour glow. Ooh, really blew that out right away. Yeah, being able to, so I have my own mix. Jay has his own mix, but unfortunately, like you all get my mix. And so like luckily, I want to hear what you're hearing, so it works out for the most part. But in the future, it'd be nice if we could get actually be able to EQ the mic separately. Like even separate just the mic inputs from the music input.
Right.
Would be nice. And we can do that here. Check it out. Like except I lose my direct monitoring.
So there's always
I could also okay. Here, let me talk through it real quick. So if you didn't want to use headphones, well, you have to use headphones to hear my. Okay, never mind. Doesn't work. Take it back.
Well, we try.
Yeah, y'all. This is the process, though. When you're trying to do this stuff, you just have to be like, "Oh, can we just no, like, oh, it seems so obvious. Oh, great, there's this great solution, but like, oh wait, like, there's this one thing about how we're routing it that like, like we're missing one headphone output in the right spot, or like in the signal flow, or this or that. There's like, it gets complicated quick. So like, you could easily like get all this set up and think you know exactly what you're doing, and still plug it all in and have it not work. So you really like every setup like this is gonna be pretty different. We have so many pieces of technology going to make this work. We got 2 computers, 2 audio interfaces, and an audio video interface.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like we're pulling in sources from all over the place, and so just like really like being mindful of your signal flow and like all that stuff is like gets really important. But like even if you think it's how it's gonna go, it might not. Then just be prepared to test stuff is the most important thing. We were here working on this for a while today. This is not the first thing we've streamed today.
Oh no, and the whole like streaming process. Like if you go back and watch our first like streams on YouTube, like even there's a preview. There's like a test stream that we did, the very first one that was it's not live, but it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
And you can see the quality. I mean, it's just like it's troubleshooting and like.
We have all the same tools. We didn't get new stuff.
No,
we just got better at doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, Jay got better at doing it. I've just been up here having fun doing what I always do. But
well, Corey's helped a lot with it, especially because I'm not, I'm a video centric mainly. It's kind of my main thing, so I can do the video stuff. But then when it comes to routing so many different sources of audio, that's where I start getting confused because like. The video is, it's straight from the camera into the ATEM. Pretty straightforward. All I do is change some settings in the camera and make sure it looks decent and, set it on manual or set it on whatever and let it do its thing. But, like, with the audio, it's kind of like, you have 2 cords from one device that comes through and it's left and it's right and it's backwards and it's a sub and it's this and it's
keeping your left and right cables straight is a whole thing. Like I definitely like keep my cables, a lot of cables in pairs, like I like if I'm gonna have stereo cables, like they're separate from my mono cables.
Can you buy ones that are like labeled?
Yeah,
or like
but
buy ones that are like in the same like and bundled together, like the 2 cords bundled, and then it's just like a.
I mean, I'm sure you could, but like you could also just like tape them together.
I'm surprised. Yeah.
So like a common thing with like consumer like left and right stuff is like they're color coded. So like one will be like.
Oh, perfect.
Usually it's like I think it's usually like black or white is like left and like red is right.
Oh right, like kind of like the
like
RGB
on the RCA yeah, totally. On the RCA cables that are plugged into the back of the focus right now are color coded that way.
Okay.
But so like I have these cables, like one of these has like a piece of tape on it, and one here
Oh, there it is.
So you creep into frame.
Yep.
Yeah, I put a
there it
piece
is.
of masking tape on this one, and there's a matching
Yep.
piece of masking tape on the other end of that one, just to keep them straight. So I know, like, and then like, you just get in the habit, like, if you're gonna mark just one of them, like, just always just mark the left one, and then or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Or like.
That's a good way to do it.
There's a few, just as long as you know, really is the important part.
Right.
We could make this audio setup could be a lot simpler. Boom. That's T-Rex walking around again. So this audio setup could be a lot simpler if we dragged the. We have so many audio interfaces here now. We have the 18i20 in there.
Oh.
And that thing might be able to or at least like allow us to like skip this thing.
Oh.
Somehow.
Would that be set up over here?
It would basically allow us to like pull more sources into one spot, and you can control them better.
I see.
Whether it would actually solve our bottleneck problem though, like I'm not really sure because
Yeah.
It's so funny because like I have the opposite thing of like conceptualizing the audio stuff is kind of easy for me, but once the video sources start getting involved, it starts feeling a little confusing.
Because you got to make sure everything's synced up, and it's.
Oh, well, there's that whole thing too.
Yeah.
Just like Jay's needs for monitoring are different from mine, and they're different from what I'm like used to needing. Like I'll just pull a direct monitor, and then y'all can just hear whatever you want. But like it's different when like I get to do that, and then Jay wants to monitor it, but like the stage after that, but still before you get it.
Right.
Like so like because our roles are different in this scenario. Like the what we need to hear is different too, and so like the redundancy is because we need to tap in at so many different points in the audio chain to hear it. Whereas the video chain, you're that's all happening either like in the ATEM like simply, or it's like self-contained in OBS.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, it's all really. I mean, it's like a big puzzle, putting
really
everything
is.
together. But once it all works,
It really
it's
is.
awesome. I mean, like all this stuff you could, I mean, we're doing it live right now. I haven't ever turned off the stream. Like everything that I've changed is, live. I could unplug stuff and plug new stuff in if I wanted to. Like if I wanted to switch out the computers, like Corey's computer, we could switch out for a different computer. If I want to plug a game console in, we could. If I wanted to plug in more audio, I could just bring in another, audio device and plug it into the other line input on the back there. All of it you can do live, and you can really do anything that you want to do. I mean, the only thing that you would need to restart OBS is if you accidentally unplugged the ATEM, because if you unplug the ATEM, OBS won't automatically find it again, so you would have to restart OBS. That's the only scenario that you'd run into that problem, which we've had some technical difficulties in the past, and that's just from the weird problems with the USB-C ports that I've run into. At first, like in the box, it comes with a USB-C to USB-C, and for some reason, but it's not actually. It's just a whole ordeal. But I think I've finally figured it out. Using a regular USB-A to USB-C has worked wonders, and we no longer have that problem anymore.
Okay, here's a pro tip for everybody: like adapters, like especially things that are digital communication. I mean, like you be wary of analog adapters, but any adapter that's taking one digital signal and converting it to another digital signal, or even just a connector, there's potential for weird miscommunications. The weirdest one that I've ran across is I found nice name brand, not cheap. That hub that's over there would not work with my MIDI controllers at home.
Oh, the little
I brought
USB
it home.
hub?
I brought it home, and it would not I could not get it to transmit any MIDI messages at all. There was
Yeah.
no I could not figure out why. I brought it here. It takes those MIDI messages just fine on the computers here, but my computer didn't like it.
Weird.
So it's I don't know if it's a Mac thing or what, but I've used other Anchor interface. Anchor's not a bad brand or anything, but yeah, that one, it's made for a Mac too. You see, it's got the but it didn't work in mine. It works on our Windows PCs just fine. Don't buy that stuff and be like, it's gonna come in on Wednesday and I'm gonna use it for my job on Thursday. like
Oh,
test
yeah.
that thing out, you know, like because you just have no
Seriously.
idea.
Like this computer is the one that all this is running on was our Mars editing station that was in the Mars video room. And we had another one that I was using that was dedicated for the stream, a whole different computer
Just for this purpose.
just for this purpose. Could not, like, one day it just decided it did not want to work with that ATEM software controller. I couldn't get it to show up, so I couldn't have couldn't have done this. I couldn't have controlled the picture in picture. None of that. I could not for the life of me figure out what was going on with it. So I brought this computer out here, and it works great. I haven't had any problems with it yet. So who knows? Like, it could have been a faulty USB port on that computer. It could have been, I tried everything and nothing seemed to work. And it just, it was working great. Like, most of the first few streams, we ran it on that. And,
Yeah, it was so weird how it just crapped out on you.
yeah. So, who knows? Could have been an update it didn't like. Could I just, maybe I need to reset the whole computer. I don't know, but this works. And, we'll probably stick with this for a while. And, yeah, it's cool. It's a really neat setup. So,
I think after hearing all that, hopefully y'all could just, like, come in here and run it without us.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we want. But yeah, so I guess we'll try to wrap up. Yeah.
Feels about right. Yeah,
Okay.
I can't imagine that. I can't think of anything else I could possibly
That
want to
was
say
a
about
lot.
it.
Yeah, there was a lot of information for you guys. And next week we will be back with our friend from Access Humboldt, Brianna, who's going to be talking about some like early stage video film production stuff. I'm not sure what the scope of everything she's going to cover is, but definitely look forward to that. Corey and I believe, will be here asking questions and encouraging discussions and things. So keep an eye out for that. That should be super exciting. And yeah, again, this is another Access class being hosted by the Mars Project, Corey and I, and being organized by Access Humboldt. So yeah, look forward to seeing us next week, and I'll try not to bump my mic. But cool. Alrighty. Well, thank you all for joining us today, and hope you all have a great weekend.
See you later.
Bye. I have to transition
Well,
to make it work.
Oh, so he knows how to do this now.
Right. Here we go.